I'm Mike Feifer, and this is the Feifer Film Academy. This is my introduction episode, where I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, tell you about the Academy, and then you can decide if you want to subscribe. If you want to subscribe, I'm going to have a lot of lessons and a lot of information to give you. But let me back it up a little bit. I decided to do the Film Academy because, well, when I make movies, I really enjoy teaching. I really enjoy seeing people really learn how to make movies and just spread all my information around on set. Anybody who's worked with me on set knows that I'm always teaching people. Then I got a chance to teach at a school and taught a couple semesters of intro to film, and mainly taught 18 to 22-year-old college students, and thoroughly enjoyed that. Really enjoyed that. But I felt there were some limitations because we only had so much time, and I wanted to take it further. So then I started my Film Academy, where I started taking small groups of people, 5 nights a week, 5 hours a night, and meeting in person and teaching in person. But it's a little difficult to do with time. We were doing it on weekday nights because you can't do weekends, and you can only reach so many people. So I've decided to do an online course. I feel with an online course I can reach more people, put more information down, and that information is permanent, so you can go back and watch it. My students who've taken my Film Academy, they can't go back and watch anything. They have to go off memory. And I think it's pretty cool to have an online course and an online community where you can go back and see things, and you can be a part of it too. So that was sort of the impetus for starting the Feifer Film Academy. And a lot of the reason I'm doing it is because I love teaching, but also because I want to empower filmmakers to make their own movies. I've made a career of making movies. I've made a life making movies. I'll get into how I made a family making movies. And I'd like for you to have that opportunity too. It's much harder to make movies now. There's a lot of people out of work, and a lot of people who do a job that are great jobs, just DPing, First AC, Grip Electric. But I want to empower you to produce and direct your own movies, because you can, and there's opportunities to make more money and enjoy the process more. So that's a lot of what the Feifer Film Academy is about. To back up a bit about me, I've produced I've lost count, but over 130 movies now. I've written more than 50 screenplays, maybe 55 screenplays, and I just directed my 80th movie. So I do it a lot. I've been doing it now for over 3 decades, and I love what I do. This is all I do, is all I think. I also edit movies now, and I have 6 movies in post right now, and I make indie, low-budget movies, and you can do it too. So to back up, I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and my father, when I was born, worked for, he was a social worker, and he got an opportunity to work for a company called Screen Gems. Screen Gems was a TV company. I think Screen Gems got bought out by 20th Century Fox, and my father started working for 20th Century Fox. He was director of television research. Back then there were only a few channels, and there were Nielsen ratings, which those basically told you kind of how well your TV show was doing. So my father put together statistics and ratings books on each TV show. Back then it was, if you're old enough, MASH, SWAT, Room 222, shows that Fox made, Planet of the Apes. And in 1972, they shut down the New York operation. They moved my entire family to Los Angeles. So I grew up in Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley. First place we lived was Sherman Oaks. Some of you are familiar with that. Sherman Oaks, it's funny, near the intersection of the 405 freeway and the 101 freeway is actually kind of the center of the world when it comes to filmmaking in Los Angeles. If you live there, you kind of have a lot of access to all the locations. Also, the San Fernando Valley contains NBC, Disney, Universal, Warner Brothers. There's a studio there called CBS Radford. So there's probably more Hollywood going on in the San Fernando Valley than there is in Los Angeles. It's a little more spread out in Los Angeles. So anyways, I grew up in Los Angeles. I had no interest in making movies. It never even dawned on me. I was kind of just a wild kid, just running around climbing trees and riding bikes and skateboarding. My my parents divorced when I was about 6 years old. When my parents divorced, we moved to another suburb of the San Fernando Valley called Tarzana. Funny enough, it was called Tarzana because Edgar Rice Burroughs, at one time, the writer, author of Tarzan, owned that property. It was his ranch. And Edgar Rice Burroughs, I guess since he lived there, they called the area Tarzana for Tarzan. Again, still no interest in making movies. Even more, we moved across the street from the editor of Variety, a gentleman named Tom Pryor. Back then, and still is now, but Variety and Hollywood Reporter were two of the biggest trade papers in Hollywood back then, and he was the editor. Again, no interest in making movies, but what I did do back then is not only being a wild kid, running around skateboarding and latchkey kid, doing what I wanted, coming home when the sun was down. I drew, I sculpted. I got a 35 millimeter camera when I was in 7th grade and learned shutter speeds and lenses and f-stops and how to photograph. I learned photography. In high school, I took photography classes and learned how to develop film and how to print pictures on paper. So I was building this basis for making movies. I had no idea. Then my brother went off to Berkeley to go to architecture school. I visited him in architecture school and loved what he was doing. Models and drawing and just designing. And I was like, well, that's me too. So I went to school at the University of Colorado Boulder, and I took architecture classes and lived in the architecture studio where I built models and drew and everything. And found that architecture school is actually a really good education for filmmaking, and not particularly a good education for being an architect. But for filmmaking, actually, you learn perspective and color and composition and design process and all these things that go into filmmaking. In fact, the first shot of the first movie I directed, I called my father up and I said, hey, Dad, architecture school wasn't a waste of time because it all makes sense. So it really related. Anyways, I went to architecture school, and when I graduated architecture school, I got a job at a small design firm in the San Fernando Valley in a city called Van Nuys. And I worked at this small design firm designing furniture and designing kitchens. I even designed a really ornate stair railing for a house in West LA, a multi-million-dollar house. I mean, crazy things I was doing at 21, 22 years old, designing. And honestly, I'll tell you, I don't think I really appreciated it that much, because after a year, I was ready to move on. I was going to go get my master's degree in architecture, but my father was making a movie called Fraternity Demon. And my brother was between Berkeley and Harvard, and I was trying to decide what to do about my master's degree. And we both decided to work on Fraternity Demon. Well, Fraternity Demon was a complete disaster. I mean, it was, in fact, hopefully in the future I'll do a class just on Fraternity Demon, and I'll show Fraternity Demon because it's hilarious what a disaster it was. But if my brother and I weren't there, I think it all would have fallen apart. And we had never worked on a movie before, but my brother became the AD and I became the coordinator, and we were the glue to hold it all together. And we got it done. And it was just a small, super low budget 3-week movie, but we got it done. And I'm actually still friends with a lot of people from that movie. In fact, the makeup artist was one of the top makeup artists in business named James McKinnon. And the costume designer, Marcel, who was Marcel McKay back then, now Marcel Chamley, she still works with me. We're talking over 30 years later. So after Fraternity Demon, I was like, forget about this master's architecture thing. I'm going to go work on another movie with Dad. So he was making a movie called Witchcraft 4. And I said, well, Dad, let me be the assistant to the producer so I kind of know what's going on and get a sense. And I did. And there's things that they did that didn't go well, and there's things they did that were correct decisions, but I was there to kind of see all of them and kind of start learning how to produce at 22 years old, 23 years old, 23 probably by then. And then the next one was a 6-episode little television series. I said, well, let me be the production coordinator, because if the line producer, and we'll get into what a line producer is if you don't know that, if the producer or line producer doesn't show up, at least I have all the vendor numbers and all the cast numbers and all the crew numbers, and I know the schedule. And it turns out that the line producer didn't really show up, and I was kind of producing the whole thing. So I learned a lot there. So I'm just taking in all this information. And then finally, we were making Witchcraft 5, and I said to my father, well, why don't I just produce that movie? He said, well, you could do it, but you need a friend to do it with you. And a friend of mine did it with me, and we did it together, and we got it done. And after that, and by the way, I made a lifelong friend of the director, Dolan Sue, and he brought on a cinematographer named Dennis Maloney, and we're all still friends. In fact, Dennis Maloney went on to shoot The Contender with Jeff Bridges and Gary Oldman and Christian Slater. And I think he should have been nominated for an Academy Award for that picture. But Witchcraft 5 was one of the first features he ever DP'd. So, anyways, I just went on to make movies for my father. He also had a video label, so I was running his video label. And we were selling movies in the foreign markets, which I'll get to all of that in all my lessons, which I think are really critical for everything that's going on with indie film and how to make movies and how to make money making movies. So I kind of did all these different things working for my father. So after that, some other companies asked me to start producing movies for them. And this one movie came along, asked me to line produce a movie for them. Well, a company asked me to just produce some things, but in the year 2000, I got a phone call from a woman saying she's looking for a line producer. And we'll get into it, but a line producer is kind of like the contractor who builds a house. So you hire a line producer, they hire the crew, they find the locations, they kind of do everything or oversee other people doing it. At that time, I was making a movie called The Medicine Show with Jonathan Silverman and Natasha Gregson Wagner, Natalie Wood's daughter. And I said, this woman, well, why don't you come to set and see what I'm up to? And she showed up on set. She brought her friend with her. And it was dark. It was hard to see, but they saw what we were up to. And it was kind of hard to talk because I was busy. And I said, well, let's get together. And we had a meeting a few days later. And that meeting turned into something like a 3-hour meeting. The next day I was going to San Diego for a wedding, and her sister lived in San Diego, and her sister was financing the movie, and I met her, and they decided to hire me. Well, that woman and I started location scouting. We fell in love location scouting. We made the movie together. We got married. We made the movie in December 2000. We got married in April of 2001. We had our son 9 months later. It's now been over 24 years. Her name is Kaya Coley, and she's my wife. And she's an actress. And so movies have been very good to me. So after that, though, I still hadn't directed a movie. I was producing, I was line producing. We had a baby. I was struggling trying to find jobs, and line producing wasn't really paying enough, but it's all that I knew. I also had a graphic design company kind of through that time. So I was working graphics. I was doing movie posters and graphics and video, DVD inserts and all that kind of stuff, and VHS tapes back then. And I was hired to line produce a movie, and the director dropped out. So I got an opportunity to direct that movie, and I took it. And that movie ended up starring Jennifer Carpenter, who was the star of Exorcism Emily Rose, and you might know her as Dexter's sister in the TV show Dexter. And it also starred Judd Nelson, star of Breakfast Club, one of my favorite movies growing up in the 80s. And Michael Learned, the mother from The Waltons, James Avery, the father from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Stacey Dash from Clueless. So my first movie, I got to direct some fantastic actors, and it was a fun, silly horror movie, and it's called Lethal Eviction. And I learned a lot from that experience. And that's the very first shot of that movie was a very complicated Steadicam shot. And I called my father up after that. I said, Dad, architecture school wasn't a waste of time. It makes sense now. It all relates to directing movies. But my directing, though, I was producing movies. I started ADing movies. I was line producing and producing to control the pace of those movies. But also, I started doing it to hone my skills as a director, because I was feeling like I was going to start directing, but I wanted to know as much as I could about directing before just jumping in. A lot of people think they can direct, and there's a lot of things I'm going to teach you that they don't know about. And it's important to know things like blocking and cross the line, and how to handle rehearsals, and understanding lighting, and understanding f-stops and lenses and neutral density filters, all these things that come into play, and you really need to know them before you start directing. but you're going to learn them from me. I'm going to teach you everything. So after that, a company offered me a job to direct a couple movies, and I directed The Graveyard and Grim Reaper. You can still watch those today on the internet, and those are fun little movies. And then a producer called me into his office, and he wanted me to make low-budget movies that are horror films and things, and we decided we're going to do one together, and I said, okay, you have a script you want me to make? He said, I don't have a script. He says to me, do you have a script? I said, I don't have a script. He goes, write a script. Write a script? I'd never written a script before. And I said, well, what genre do you want? He says, well, write a ghost movie. So I went home, and I pumped out a ghost movie in 3 days. I never written a script before. I wrote a script in 3 days. It's called The Dead Calling, and you can watch that movie somewhere too. And that was Alexandra Holden, Leslie Easterbrook, Sid Haig. It was a good cast. And then I went on to direct and produce and write a bunch of movies for that producer. And then that producer teamed up with somebody else. We started making, instead of serial killer movies, we started making dog Christmas movies, and just making movies. And then I gained a track record of making movies on time and on budget with great production value. So then I started making movies for Mar Vista Entertainment, Real One Entertainment, a company called Jorv Entertainment, and just living the life of a filmmaker, writing, directing, and producing movies. And so now it's been over 30 years. I just directed my 80th movie. I have 6 movies in post-production right now, and I'm always making films. The reason for the Feifer Film Academy is I love teaching making movies. And I actually taught film at a film academy here in Georgia for a couple semesters, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I found it restricting, actually. I couldn't teach everything that I wanted to teach. And so then I started my own film academy, and I started doing the film academy with 6 or 7 people in person for 5 nights, 5 hours a night. But that was somewhat restrictive because those weren't recorded, and you can't go back and watch them. And I could only reach so many people. So I've decided now to do an online course where I can reach as many people as possible. I can make it a community. So in the Feifer Film Academy, not only will there be my lessons, but I'm going to try to put a lot of content up from other lessons and Q&As and maybe coaching and interviews with other filmmaker friends and maybe reviews. I love cameras and lights and things like that, so we'll do reviews of those and talk about that. And just really make it a place where you're going to hopefully come to on a regular basis to just indulge in film and just be a part of the Feifer Film Academy community. So I'm really excited by this. I want to teach you how to film, but ultimately how to make movies. But ultimately, I want to empower you to make your own movies. It's really hard to find work these days. Movies are now spread out all over the world. They're not just made in the United States anymore. They're not just made in Hollywood anymore. They're made all over the world. The movie Parasite won an Academy Award. It's a Korean film. It used to be that only America made movies pretty much. Not exactly, of course. There's the Fellinis and the Sergio Leones, but most movies are made in America. But now everybody can make movies all over the world. So that means that there's not as many movies to be made here in America. And you might not be in America, actually. You might be all over, but it's spread out. So I want to empower you to make your own movies instead of waiting at home to be hired. I also want to help you not just be one thing. I don't think you could be a one-trick pony in this business. You can be a DP, but if you're also a writer, an editor, a producer, a director, I think it opens up many more doors. I didn't start making money in this business until I was a writer, director, and producer. And now, 57 years old, I'm editing my movies, and I enjoy editing too. So I want to teach you all of those things. I want to create a community. So this is my introduction, and this is, I don't want to call it a sales pitch, because it's less about selling to you, but to introduce you to me and ask you to be a part of the community. And if you don't like it, you can always just discontinue and cancel out of it. But I have this feeling that you might enjoy it, and the more people that I see subscribing and being a part of it, I think it's going to It's going to get me even more motivated to do more and make it a really substantial channel with lots and lots of information. So please subscribe and be a part of it, and hopefully I can really help you to learn to make movies. And you know, I have a saying that I love. Some of you have seen. There's this Shia LaBeouf video where he did this video on green screen, and he says, "Just do it, just do it." It's a lot of what making movies is for me. I have a lot of sayings about movies. I have something called FCWTP, or we're going for very good, not perfect. You're going to learn all these things. You're going to learn blocking. You're going to learn lenses. You're going to learn f-stops. You're going to learn distribution. You're going to learn writing scripts, casting, editing. I'm going to try to budgeting, scheduling. I'm going to give you everything that's in my brain that I've done over the last 30 years and teach you how I do it too. And I'm going to open up that forum too, so you can ask me questions. And hopefully I can answer them. Remember, I'm just one person. There's lots of ways to make movies. There's lots of different executives, producers, executive producers, directors and things. But I've done a lot of it. And I want to give you as much knowledge as possible so you can go out in the world and live your dreams, because making movies it becomes your passion, and being on set is really the life force. You know, we make movies. It's a communal thing where you're amongst people. I've made 5 movies in Hawaii. I've made movies in Wyoming and Tennessee, the streets of New York, and it is thoroughly enjoyable. And the process of making movies is really more enjoyable than anything. I find the process more enjoyable than the screenings, more enjoyable than the money, more enjoyable than all of it. It's the process when I'm on set and everybody's just joining in and being creative. It's powerful. It's a powerful place to be. I mean, sometimes I'll be in I shot a Billy the Kid movie in Arizona on Mezcal movie set where they shot Tombstone, and sometimes I'll just stop and I'll just really just be thankful of where I am and the opportunities I have. When I've shot in Hawaii and we're barefoot, and sometimes I'll have this monitor with 2 grips and I'm directing on the beach and looking out at a rainbow and the sun, and I'm just thankful because I have an opportunity to do this. And my crew, they're appreciating it also, you know, and something we'll go into too is how you treat the crew, how you be a leader, because a leadership position is directing and producing. But, you know, if you don't want to be a director or producer, I'm going to have classes on makeup and wardrobe and script supervising and editing and grip and electric, and we're gonna go through all of that. So and it'll all be there to watch later. Anyway, so again, sorry to ramble on. I hope you subscribe. Thanks for being a part of the Feifer Film Academy, and look forward to seeing you on the other side.